Here's where it gets even more interesting. If I line up the recent and upcoming new launches side by side, it becomes as clear as daylight. Hi everyone, today I'll be reviewing this upcoming launch in September that I know many Westies are keeping a close eye on, and it is none other than Lucerne Grand right next to Lakeside MRT. This brings back lots of memories because I grew up in Jurong, and Lakeside MRT is my go-to station for the first 30 years of my life. The main focus of my discussion today will be on location versus pricing. In other words, should you pay more for a better location like Lucerne Grand that is next to MRT, or does it make more sense to buy something else like the Zen at 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗲𝗃 that appears to be less convenient but at a much lower price point? Spoiler alert, the answer might surprise you. Let's dive straight in. By the way, it might look easy, but a lot of work goes into brainstorming, scripting, filming, and editing this video. So I would really appreciate if you can help me by clicking on the like button and subscribing to my channel. It will definitely motivate me to continue doing more great content for you. Thank you so much, and back to the video. As most of you know, I use my IPA framework to evaluate projects holistically across these 5 factors. For today's comparison, I'm going to zoom in on just 3 of them that I think matter most for this matchup between Lucerne Grand and the Zen, namely location and amenities, demand versus supply, and pricing versus surrounding developments. By the way, I've also evaluated and ranked all the other upcoming launches in second half 2026. If you like my analysis on those, just click on the link in the description, fill in your particulars, and I'll be happy to send it across. Alright, first up, let's evaluate the location of Lucerne Grand. I know what you want to say. With COE prices at record high, it is important to stay near the MRT station so you don't have to waste money to buy a car. So given that Lucerne Grand is literally a stone's throw away to Lakeside MRT, I can see why buyers will be attracted to this location. On top of that, being a mixed-use development, there will also be 10,000 square feet of retail and F&B space right at your doorstep. Beyond that, you are a short ride to GEM, Westgate, and IMM where you can satisfy all your shopping needs. For nature lovers, Lucerne Grand is also a short walk to Jurong Lake Gardens, Singapore's designated national garden. However, Lakeside is after all in the far west of Singapore, and it will still take you around 40 minutes by train to reach the CBD at Raffles Place. On balance, I'm giving Lucerne Grand a decent rating of 8 out of 10 for location and amenities. Now, let's flip over to the Zen. At first glance, the location appears to be 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗲𝗃. The birds also don't want to lay eggs here. It is located in the 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃𝗃 precinct along Jalan Jurong Kechil, and despite what some marketing materials will tell you, it is definitely not walkable to the MRT. Nonetheless, there is a bus stop right outside the development with multiple buses and only 4 stops to Beauty World MRT on the downtown line. So if you work in the CBD, for example, going to work will take you 10 minutes to Beauty World MRT, including waiting time for the bus, and another 30 minutes to downtown MRT station. Your total commuting time is exactly the same from Lakeside to Raffles Place MRT. But what you get in return is a low-density living environment near to Bukit Timah Nature Reserve in District 21, which falls under the rest of Central Region in Singapore. A much better address compared to Lakeside Drive in the OCR. There are also lots of amenities surrounding Beauty World MRT, from hawker centre to eateries along Cheong Chin Nam Road, as well as the new shopping mall below Reserve Residences. Overall, I feel the location is not as bad as it appears to be. Of course, it is still not as convenient compared to something with direct MRT access, so I can only give it a score of 6.5 out of 10. Next up, let's look at the demand versus supply situation for Lucerne Grand. For viewers that have been watching my video for some time, you know that I use my very own demand ratio to quantitatively evaluate demand in the area. A high demand ratio will suggest that there is strong demand in the area because there are more units that have already been transacted recently compared to the number of units that are currently still available in the market. So, here are the numbers that I've tabulated for the various developments around Lakeside MRT, and you can see very clearly that the demand ratios come in very strongly above 100% across the 2-bedders, 3-bedders, and 4-bedders. To be honest, I'm not surprised because the smaller units will get to enjoy strong demand from investors given its high rentability for tenants looking to be near the MRT or for students looking to be near NTU. The bigger units in the area will also get to enjoy strong demand from parents looking to enroll their kids in the highly coveted Rulang Primary School. In addition, this area will also likely benefit from the Jurong Lake District transformation in time to come. Overall, it is very clear that demand significantly outstrips supply in the area, hence it is a no-brainer, 9 out of 10 for me. Coming to the Sengkang, likewise I tabulated the numbers for various developments with at least 200 units in the upper Bukit Timah estate. For the 3 and 4 beders, even though the demand and supply ratios are not as strong compared to what we have seen for the lakeside area previously, the numbers here are still in a very healthy range, representing pretty decent demand for bigger units, likely from upgraded families and the old rich looking to stay in the area. However, what is concerning is the weaker demand and supply ratios for the 2 beders, particularly for 𝗿𝗏 and 𝗿𝗏𝗏. I can only conclude that there might not be much organic demand for the smaller units in this area, and hence it will likely take a longer time to exit in the future. On balance, I'll give the Sengkang a demand versus supply score of 7 out of 10. By the way, I hope you have found the above information useful so far. A number of my YouTube viewers actually prefer to reach out to me in person as they are able to get more real-time and customized solutions based on their requirements. So if you also have burning questions, don't be shy. Feel free to contact me on WhatsApp at 94515625 and I'll be happy to advise further. Alright, back to the video. Now, here comes the part I think matters most: pricing. And before we get to Lucerne Grand and the Sengkang's pricing specifically, I want to answer a more fundamental question. Does paying a premium for a next to MRT project during launch automatically translate to better returns down the road? Let me show you a real case study of Sengkang Grand Residences versus Riverfront Residences and let the data speak for itself. Sengkang Grand is an integrated development also developed by CDL that sits directly above a mall and Buangkok MRT, so it's very similar to Lucerne Grand in many aspects. It launched in 2019 at an average price of 1,700 PSF. On the other hand, Riverfront Residences location is not the most convenient, coincidentally also 4 bus stops to Hougang MRT, which is very similar to the Sengkang. It launched a year earlier in 2018 at a much cheaper average price of 13XX PSF. Fast forward to today, Sengkang Grand Residences has appreciated by about 18%, while Riverfront Residences has appreciated almost twice at 33% over a similar length of time. Next to MRT projects usually command a higher premium at launch, and buyers are willing to pay for it because they feel that they can fetch back the same premium when they want to exit. This is not necessarily true as can be seen in our case study. So capital appreciation isn't always about location. It's about how attractive your price gap is versus your competitors. And this is exactly the lens I want you to apply as we now look at Lucerne Grand versus the Sengkang's pricing. Let's first evaluate Lucerne Grand's pricing. We don't have the official price from developer yet, but word on the ground is that we're looking at an average of around 2550 PSF. Using our price gap analysis, let's look at how this compares versus the average prices of the surrounding developments like Lake Grand, Lakeview, Lakefront Residences, and etc. As you will know by now, for the non-harmonized projects, I'll need to adjust their average price upwards by 6% to take into account the harmonization effect. After which, I calculated what is Lucerne Grand's price premium and age gap versus these other developments. Finally, the last column will show you what is Lucerne Grand's premium for every 1 year difference in age. And you can see it has a premium of around 49 PSF per year on average, which is considered borderline reasonable given the typical benchmark of 40 to 50 PSF premium per year. Not the most mouth-watering price, so I'm going to give it a score of 7 out of 10. Coming to the Sengkang, it was launched back in November 2025 and till date 40% of the units have been sold. You must be wondering, isn't such a take-up rate slightly underwhelming and therefore it must be an unpopular and hence unprofitable project? Well, here are multiple case studies in the same area to prove that there is simply no correlation between initial take-up rate versus eventual profitability. Whistler Grand only sold 21% on launch day but went on to generate 7 to even 10% annualized gains. Key Residences only moved 22% of its units over the first weekend but likewise generated very healthy returns. Same thing for 𝗿𝗏𝗏 at Bukit Timah. All 3 developments are not near MRT, yet they still exceeded expectations. One commonality between them was the fact that they were all priced reasonably versus their surrounding competitors when they were first launched. Coming back to the Sengkang, let's compare its launch price of 2358 PSF versus 𝗿𝗏𝗏, Daintree Residence and Reserve Residences, which are the more comparable developments nearby. Using the same price gap analysis we did for Lucerne Grand earlier, you will notice that the Sengkang has a lower average price premium versus 𝗿𝗏𝗏 and Daintree at 37 PSF per year. This means that it is slightly underpriced versus its neighbours. But what I really want to highlight is the Sengkang's potential price gap versus reserve residences, which is estimated to transact at 2,800 PSF and above in the sub-sale market. After harmonizing it, this translates to 2,968 PSF, an insane 610 PSF price gap versus the Sen. Now, you can be your own judge. How much more premium are you willing to pay for reserve residences for its proximity to the MRT? If your answer is 200 to 300 PSF more, this means that the current price gap of 610 PSF is way too big, and the Sen's prices is bound to catch up to narrow the gap over time. And this is where you will get the capital appreciation from. For that, I'll give you the pretty good score of 9 out of 10. Here's where it gets even more interesting. If I line up the recent and upcoming new launches side by side, it becomes as clear as daylight. The Sen is meaningfully underpriced below every single one of them. As a development situated in the RCR, it should rightly be more expensive than the OCR developments. But no, it is being priced at a discount right now. If you remember the case studies I showed you earlier, this kind of discount at entry is precisely the ingredient that produces a stronger percentage return during your exit. So here's my honest take. If direct MRT access, a mixed development lifestyle, and exposure to the Jurong Lake District growth story matter most to you, Lucerne Grand is the more complete package. But if you're going for the bigger units, and you can see why a low entry price is a key ingredient for stronger capital appreciation down the road, the Sen's less convenient location is more than compensated for by how conservatively it's priced against other OCR and RCR launches. That's the key message I hope you walk away with today. If you'd like to discuss which of these two fits your own situation better, or if you want the full research I use for this comparison, feel free to reach out to me at 9451-5625 and I'll be happy to advise further. Once again, I'm Sean and I'll see you soon.